Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, kindly consider subscribing and liking the video. If you have subscribed, thank you so much for always coming back and watching my videos. I've traveled as much enough to have a little bit of experience, especially with these immigration officers. I had gotten my Canadian student visa. I got my visa on the 1st of April, Fool's Day. Like, I got that email on Fool's Day and I was like, guys, are you trying to fool me? Is it true? It was true. So then I get my visa and I have how many months till school? I have April, May, June, July, August. So I have 5 months until school begins. So in my head, I'm like, okay, should I stay in Kenya, one, or should I just go to Canada and get to know the place, get to know people, get comfortable with the food before I can start school? Remember, Canadian government do not allow you to start working before you start your classes. So that means I would just go to Canada and just have fun. But I don't know if I could afford having fun without working and eating all my savings, right? So what I did is I quickly decided to go through the UK, because I always wanted to go to the Queen's City and to just, like, you know, be there, like the castles, like so many stories about the UK that I really wanted to go and see. What happened is I quickly make that decision and apply for UK visa, and I apply for 6 months UK visa. I think that's the minimum stay that you can get. So I apply for that visa and it takes like 2 weeks ish to get it. Yeah, I think it took 2 weeks to get it because I applied for the expedited one. I got it within 2 weeks. You know, when you have a visa, there's something that is just so itchy about it that you just want to leave. You know, I wanted to leave immediately. Like, I wanted to already leave, right? When you're applying for a visa, of course, amongst the other things that are needed are like proof of accommodation, proof of a return ticket, proof of course, finances, so that is the bank statements and all other documents. I'm not doing a visa application in this video, but those 3 major ones, I am stating them because there's a story after. So of course I booked Airbnb, and then once I got the visa, remember I got the visa like in 2 weeks, so that was like almost 1 week to May, right, when I got the visa. So I get the visa, and of course I got collected from the agent, and the agent don't give me any instructions. There was no instruction at all on what I need to do. So like most of these big countries like the US, what they do is that things are really highly automated, so you don't need to carry any paper documentation. So I remember when I went to the US, I didn't have to carry any paper documentation other than my passport, right? So when I got to the airport, what happened is that it's actually just you enter your name and your details are actually there. So they just like decide to let you in, they stamp it, let you in, that's it. That is different from Schengen area countries. Schengen area countries, say for example France, Austria. When I was going to these 2 countries, when I got the visa, the immigration officer told me clearly what to carry with me and what to take to the immigration, what not to check in, and what to take with me to the immigration office or officer. So you need, of course, proof of accommodation, you need funds, sometimes they ask, sometimes they don't, and you need a return ticket. So those ones, they tell you carry those ones in hand together with your passport. So usually what I used to do, because it's so clear, I used to like print all those documents, and then when I get to those countries, I just present it and they decide to stamp it and you're inside. So the UK one was different. They never gave me any instructions at all. I just went and they gave me my passport with the visa in it, and I was like, ooh, okay, that's simple, I'll just go. But because I had experience with the Schengen area, which UK is not part of, I was like, okay, they don't need these documents when I get to the immigration officer. I was debating in my head if I should print them or I should just not print them. So because they did state that, I decided not to print them. And I had backup. So I was like, okay, anyways, I don't need to print them because they're in my phone. So when I get there and they need this proof, I can always log into my email and do what? And show them the proof, every proof of whatever proof that they needed. So that was my consolation, and I was super confident. So as I told you, I go through Qatar. I'm in Qatar, and the Airbnb that I booked when I was applying is not the Airbnb that I was going to stay at. So when the visa came, I cancelled the previous Airbnb because the visa took a shorter time than I expected, and so I decided to go to the UK earlier than I had applied. And so when I tried extending the previous Airbnb, they were fully booked then. And so I just had to cancel that Airbnb and book another one. So I booked this other Airbnb, and then I get to Qatar. I have a layover there of like 2 hours, 3 hours, I'm not sure. So then within these 2 hours, back then, when you are going to the UK, they give you a form that you fill in your details, where you're going to stay, blah, 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 blah. So they give me this small form that I needed to fill in those details. And so because I have those details on my phone, like when you book Airbnb, they send you a confirmation and the address on your phone. So I just turned on my phone and of course put down the address of the Airbnb that I was going on, and I switched off my phone. Usually when I travel, I switch off my phone when I'm flying because I want to save power as much as possible. Because you never know when you really need the phone, right? So I turned it off and then we took off. So we got to Heathrow Airport, very big. I'm so excited. Now this is the phone I was using, guys. In Phoenix. This guy disappointed me in several occasions. Not once, not twice, not thrice. So I'll give you a history of this phone. Let me digress a little bit. So when I was going to the US, I got to Atlanta Airport. This phone could not turn on. Like, it had power, fully charged, but it was not just turning on for some reason. I was like, switching it on, just shows power a little bit as if it's turning on and then shuts down. And I couldn't understand. And immediately I left the airport. Like, immediately I was away from the airport, it turned on. So I was like, okay, what about this airport and Infinix that do not go together, that do not just understand each other? I don't know. But I noticed that. But in other airports, like in Nairobi, in Qatar, works perfectly. And that's how I got to log in and get the details which I used to fill in that document that I needed to fill in. So in Qatar, worked perfectly. Other airports works perfectly. In other airports, never works at all. So it worked in Qatar, and I was so confident that it's gonna work anyways at Heathrow Airport. So I get to Heathrow, and then we alight, I queue. Meanwhile, while I'm on the queue, I'm turning on this phone. It is not turning on. I even let people pass me so I can just turn on. Oh my god, that's when I started sweating, like literally sweating. This thing was not turning on. And the reason why I was turning it on, I was just getting the documents ready. I have to log in quickly into my email so that I can download the proof of accommodation, proof of funds, and proof of a flight out of the UK. I'm turning this thing on, it's not. It just like lights up a little bit as if it's turning on. It's like teasing me, and then it shuts down. It did that like a million times. So at this point, I'm almost close to the immigration officer, and I am sweating. I think he could even see that I was tensed. But anyways, I say, okay, let me go. Maybe he will not ask. So I get to the immigration officer and I present my passport, because inside that's where the visa is, obviously. So I give him the passport, and guess what? Where is your proof of accommodation? Guys, I had to be honest. I was like, so when I got the visa, I was not told that I need to print a physical proof, but I have it in my email. My phone is not switching on. I have tried, it's not switching on, so I don't know what to do. He gave me a few minutes to try switch it on. Guys, I was in the queue like forever, it was not switching on. This thing, it was not. Anyway, I appreciated those 2 minutes. I tried, I say, this thing is not switching on. You know what? I was told to go to a separate place where they quarantine those people they suspect that are going to illegally immigrate. So at this point, like, I'm a suspect. So there are only 2 options. Either they will trust me or they will send me back on the next plane to Kenya. At this point, when it gets to a point whereby you're like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. Kenya is my country. Anyways, I love Kenya. No big deal. So this immigration officer comes to me and asks, do you know anybody in the UK? I say no. Are you sure? I say I don't know anybody. And I was 100% sure. Like, I didn't know anybody. Literally, I don't know any soul in the UK. I am just a female traveler who enjoys traveling, who just wanted to go to the UK and enjoy. I literally have no relative, no neighbor, no cousin who lives in the UK. So I say no. And this immigration officer is not believing me. He's like, are you sure somebody's not waiting for you downstairs to pick you up? I say, no. If I go check right now, I won't find anybody holding your name. I said, yes, you can go and check. There's nobody. I literally don't know anybody in the UK and nobody is waiting for me. This guy wasn't really trusting me. This guy was 150% sure that I'm an illegal immigrant. I was going to the UK and stick there. So this is where now reasoning comes in, because now I can't help myself. So I tell him, you see, guy, you have my passport. So he returned my passport. So I told him, in that passport, there are 3 active visas. There's one 5-year US visa, visitor's visa. There's a 2-year Canadian student visa. And there's a 6-month UK visitor's visa. So I started reasoning with him. Sir, if I'm in my right mind, why would I come to the UK to be an illegal immigrant, and I know my status in the UK expires in 6 months, when I have a 5-year visitor's visa in the US? Why wouldn't I not go to the US and stay there 5 years before I am out of status? Or I have a 2-year Canadian student visa. Why again would I want to go to the UK and be illegal there when I can be a student in Canada for 2 years? It doesn't make sense. Other than that, there were previous visas in that passport which had expired, but there were stamps showing I had been to Europe not once but twice and had been in and out. I asked the guy if my intention was to immigrate to these countries. The very first time I went to France, why wouldn't I stay in France and not go back? I went to Austria like less than 4 months ago. That January, I was in Austria. Why wouldn't I not remain in Austria? What was so hard in me not staying in these countries? I've also been to the US. I still have 5 years of a visitor's visa. Why wouldn't I not stay there? Tell me. He was not believing me. He went away and talked to his colleague, and then he brought me this form. I don't know if you can see, guys. Yeah, but this is border force to any female. You are liable to be examined by me, that is the immigration officer, and I'm also liable to be detained. I was detained, guys, to be detained under paragraph 16 1A of Schedule 2 of Immigration Act 1971. And I have suspended your leave to enter / remain under paragraph 2A7 of Schedule 2 to the Immigration Act of 1971. And also I have retained your passport, identity card, or travel document. Signed. And she gave me this form. Now at this point where I had reasoned out my case and my phone was not switching on, I just decided to go back to Kenya. I was like, you know what, it's okay, put me in the next flight to Kenya, because at this point I was ready. I was like, okay, you know what, there's nothing much I can do. I have explained everything I needed to. It's not a must. You know, it got to a point whereby, like, is it worth it? Especially if you're very honest, you're really being honest, and nobody is believing you, and you're just like, is it really worth it? All this that I'm going through, is it worth it? I didn't even have the psyche anymore to go explore that country. The guy was doing his work. Like, honestly, he was doing his work, but he was not making sense. Based on the records and my passport and the visas that I had on my passport, the guy was not making sense. Anyways, that's his job anyway. I wouldn't judge him for that. But he gave me this form, and then he went inside with my passport, stayed 30 minutes inside discussing, I think, with the bosses, and then he came back and he asked me, you remember the initial Airbnb that I had booked and cancelled? Yeah, he asked me, do you know this and this person? I could not even remember the name of the owner of that Airbnb. I was like, no, I don't know that person. Probably that's the first Airbnb I booked when I was applying for the visa, but because my plans changed, I changed to another Airbnb because that Airbnb was not available on those dates that changed. He went back again. I was now seated. Now we were two of us. There's a guy from Nigeria and myself. You know, like when people are passing, people are just suspecting you, like, oh, these are the illegal immigrants. So I was like, oh, okay, this is my fate. I was just like, okay, remember the form that I filled in Qatar? I gave it to him because, of course, that's the first thing you give him with a passport. So I don't even have the address of my Airbnb anymore. So he comes back and then he calls me. He said that you have traveled. I can see that. You should know better that when you are going to a country, you need to have those printed copies if you cannot have them in your phone. And then I said, yeah, I have traveled and that has been the case. It's only that in this case, it was not clear. I even asked that guy to let me use any computer, any public computer at Heathrow Airport to try log into my email. He said, no, this is an airport. We don't have cyber cafes. That guy was so rude. I said, okay now. Okay, humble yourself, my friend. Okay. So the other problem is that I could not log into any other device. So you know that setting that the authentication, the two-step authentication that you set on Gmail? So I had set it in this phone and a phone I left in Kenya. So it is only in this phone and that phone and in my laptop, which I also left in Kenya, that I could sign into my Gmail account. So even if I had found a computer or a cyber cafe or anywhere, I was not still going, because the two-step authentication, it was like, go to the settings of this phone and press this and press this, and this phone was not opening, right? So I could not still get in other than only through this phone. So long story short, this guy decided to stamp my passport, and he says, next time don't do it. I say, okay, thank you. Now at this point I don't even have the address, but that is not where my struggles ended. So I was still in the airport because I don't know where I was going. I didn't have an address. The address was in my email, so I had to get the address, to call for a taxi, to tell the taxi exactly where I'm going, because you cannot call for a taxi or Uber and tell them take me anywhere, you know. And then it had only happened in Atlanta that this phone shut down, so I wasn't really sure if I had moved out away from the airport it would work. I wasn't really sure of all those scenarios. So what I do is I buy a new phone at the airport, which was really expensive, guys. You know, it costed me a lot. So I had to buy a new phone at the airport. The only problem is that, you know, at the airport there's Wi-Fi. The only problem is that at the airport there's Wi-Fi, but still the two-step authentication or verification, the Gmail one, I still had to only log into my phone or the phone I left in Kenya. So even if I bought a new phone, I got Wi-Fi, but I could not still access my Gmail account. So what I did is I created another Airbnb account, and then thank God I could remember, because I wrote it down. I could remember the area where I booked that Airbnb, right? So I created a new Airbnb account, and then I put a totally different date, and I narrowed down to that area, because thank God I could remember. So then, and thank God that house showed up, because I could remember exactly. I'd been chatting with him back and forth. So then I told him the whole story in a brief, like I just said, you know what, this is what happened. And he was expecting me at 1 o'clock, and this is now 4 going to 5 p.m. and he was waiting for me, and he cannot call me. Even if he sends an email, I cannot get it. So I create this new account, and luckily I find this same house, and immediately I send them a message. I say, with this new account, I say, you know what, I have had so much challenges at the airport. The immigration officer were not letting me in, and I cannot access I don't have the address to your home, because I could not access my email, my Gmail account, and so I can't really get the address. Please, if you can, please send me the address so that I can come there. I will explain everything. So if you were in the shoes of this Airbnb person, would you believe a stranger telling you all these stories? I was just lucky these guys believed me and they trusted me, and he sent me the address on email, and that's how I got to my Airbnb. Anyways, why am I telling you these stories, guys? I'm telling you this story because, number one, make sure when you're going to the UK, whether you're given the instructions or not, print all your documents that you need: proof of accommodation, proof of exit flight ticket, proof of finances. Make sure you have all those in your carry-on, okay? Secondly, I am not here to blame the immigration officer. It was partly my fault. I should have known better. I should have printed those documents, right? But I didn't print them, okay? So it was partly my fault, okay? And thirdly, probably he was just doing his job. In as much as I feel like he was a little bit rude, he was simply doing his job. So that's my story, how I almost got deported back to Kenya. Thank God I didn't I wasn't deported. I enjoyed my 2 weeks, traveled all over the UK, and I loved my stay. It didn't mess up my 2 week stay, it just messed up my day of stay, which is okay. It happens. You know, those are the challenges that we face. So guys, thank you so much for coming back and watching my stories. See you in the next video. Bye bye.